Hello, everyone. Welcome to this LinkedIn-inspired conversation all about dyscalculia. And this is a conversation that we've wanted to have for quite some time here at NoraBox, and we've managed to gather some great experts actually to have that conversation with. We know that there's probably about 6% of us who live with dyscalculia. However, increasingly, we also realise that this is a very conservative guesstimate for lots of reasons, which I think part of which we'll get into this afternoon. One is a lack of research and assessment around this learning difference. And increasingly, when I've spoke to the dyscalculia community, they often share that they feel that they're around 20 or even 30 years behind where we're at these days with dyslexia. So for lots of reasons, we wanted to have this conversation, and we can't think of any better experts to join us than the team from the Dyscalculia Network. Hi, guys. Before I introduce you, I just want to say a big hello from me to the audience. My name's Donna, and of course, I'm always your host for these LinkedIn Lives. I've got shoulder-length brown hair, and I'm wearing a nice snuggly grey NoraBox jumper today. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I'm joined by Cat Eadle, who is a co-founder of the Dyscalculia Network. Hi, Cat.
Hello, thank you for having us all here today. My name is Amelia. My name is Cat. I've got long reddish coloured hair. I wear glasses and I'm wearing a purple top because the Dyscalculia Network colours are purple and my pronouns.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kat. I'm also joined by Amelia Shipton. Now, Amelia, you are part of the Adult Advisory Board at the Dyscalculia Network, and you are an actor and a mental health researcher. Hi.
Hi, Donna. Thank you so much for having me. As I said, my name is Amelia. My pronouns are she, her, and I have short hair and I'm wearing a blue and white jumper.
Brilliant. Thank you. It's great to have your company. And also your colleague who's also on the advisory board is Mia Borthwick. Hi, Mia. So you are an actor and a theatre maker, as well as having this lived experience and a passion around dyscalculia.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Mia. My preferred pronouns are she, her. I have medium length hair and I'm wearing a pink cardigan.
Brilliant, thank you. So let's get started chatting, guys. I opened up by saying we feel that there's already issues about dyscalculia in terms of assessment research. The statistics are really, really low. Kat, can you start us off then as the co-founder of the network and a real expert in this space? What actually is dyscalculia for those of us who aren't quite sure?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to think of dyscalculia as part of the spectrum of maths. So a lot of people have a positive experience with maths throughout their educational or life. And those maths might be about maths, or they could be just to do higher paper, when they do a university degree in engineering, it could be some math. And dyscalculia, though, falls under a specific difficulty. It's distinguish it from other difficulty with magnitude ordering of numbers. And
Kat, I think we're struggling with your sound, unfortunately. So I don't know if you want to just sort the tech. It was coming in and out. And this is such an important question. So I'm going to come back to you. I think the gremlins are in the system this afternoon, guys. So I'll come back to you in a minute to ask you again, just very, very carefully, which I know you were doing, but we couldn't hear it so great, to take us through what the definition is. But if we can jump forward, Mia and Amelia, while we wait for Kat to maybe readjust her sound in some ways. Can you tell us then how dyscalculia impacts on adults, please? We know there's lots of myths out there, and I know Kat was starting to explain what we're looking at. And I often say to folks who ask me about this difference when I'm out and about training, it's beyond somebody like me, isn't it? Just I don't like maths very much and I struggle with number. That's not what dyscalculia is. So Amelia, can I come to you first about how it can impact on adults? And what some of your lived experiences are, please.
Yeah, sure. So I was diagnosed at 10 years old. along with dyslexia and dyspraxia. So I have all three. They're all part of my journey, and my whole kind of experience and journey through school and education was challenging. There are lots of kind of different hurdles that you have to kind of go through to get where you want to get, and it is a really challenging difference to struggle with. However, there are lots of kind of pros to that as well. I know Mia and I were both very, very creative, and it's kind of really able to bring that creative and problem solving to kind of expertise in our practice. But I think as a business owner myself, dyscalculia does affect me, especially when we're talking about numbers. I'm looking at my budget and all sorts of different things, and I think it's really important that employers and companies are aware when they're working together, and it's really important that we kind of use different dialogues and different kind of strategies that enhance our practice and ensure that together we navigate these different challenges. So whether it is being aware, recognizing what people's strengths are, recognizing what their challenges are, and working together to help you feel more empowered within the workplace. For me, I really struggle with Excel spreadsheets, so previous workers know that that's actually something that I'm not exceptionally good at, and actually I'm really great with talking to people, working with the public, lots of different things, empowering people and that type of thing. So it's really important that together we navigate those different challenges.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia. And you talked about living with other neurodivergent differences, and it's important that we understand, for those who aren't sure, dyscalculia is part of the neurodivergent family in that way, isn't it? And thanks for starting to give us some insight into how it can impact. Mia, the same question to you then. What do you feel are some of the myths that maybe you live with around dyscalculia, if you share that about yourself, and how does it impact on your own experience?
Yeah, so dyscalculia has always been one of those things in my life that I have always really struggled to come to terms with. And I think it did start from school. I think there were a few times at school where I felt like I wasn't believed because people didn't really know what it was. So it's because it's not that it's not very researched, it's just that people don't understand what it is, especially in schools and stuff. So I think I'd hear things like, why don't you just use a calculator, which as a dyscalculic person, it's not as simple as that. Using a calculator isn't the answer to everything. Obviously it's a lot more than just numbers. It's things like sequencing and organizing things. So to say, use a calculator, well, you can't use a calculator to organize things. So I think, I always say dyscalculia is more than just not knowing numbers. It's a whole range of different things that I think people don't quite understand. Yeah.
Thank you, Mia. And I suppose this comes back, Kat, to why the network was created. And hopefully I'm going to ask you the question again, because Mia set it up really beautifully there in her answer. Talk us through then what dyscalculia actually is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Hooray.
Sorry. So dyscalculia is a specific difficulty in maths, a bit like dyslexia is a specific difficulty, and it can vary in severity. But it's usually about the difficulties with number sense, including subitizing, which means recognizing a small amount of objects without counting them, and also symbolic and non-symbolic magnitude comparisons. That means recognizing, say, 2 piles of apples, which has got the more or less apples in, or if that was in digits. So, for example, a very tiny 7, a very large 6, knowing that the 7 still has a greater value than the 6. It's a specific difficulty that's going to persist throughout somebody's life. So you're not going to grow out of having dyscalculia, but it might present differently at different times during a person's life and impact them differently. Certainly, because I was a primary school teacher, I thought a lot about the primary school setting and how it impacted younger children. And now I work with the Dyscalculia Network, I see how that impacts adults in different ways than it might have done when they were younger. And it occurs across all those age ranges, and it occurs across all levels of education and all abilities. So people with dyscalculia are not stupid in any way. And we get a lot of questions around that. Am I stupid because I can't do maths? Absolutely not. And it can also occur on its own, but it can also occur with other learning differences. So things like dyslexia or autism or so on. And we see the indicators of dyscalculia being quite varied with different people. So we will see some people who their indicators in certain areas, like Mia says, sequencing, organising time, organising money will be the thing they really, really find difficult, and other people will find those basic calculations, for example, the thing that they find really, really difficult.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Kat. And I'm so glad we can hear you now, because everything you said is so important to help us understand how this difference can impact. And Mia, coming back to what you said, on the back of Kat's words of wisdom, yeah, a calculator isn't going to help with these things, is it? Because they're quite profound issues around number sense. And Amelia, I love what you said about starting to give insights for you as a business person, how it can impact. And I think that's the bit, certainly for us as adults, where we've got to think, how does this difference impact on our lives, isn't it? So if I can come to you, Amelia, what strategies do you have in place to help you? You know, you talked about difficulties with spreadsheets and so on. And I certainly feel number is everywhere in our lives, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whether it's in our professional lives, in our private lives. Talk me through a little bit, Amelia, about some of the strategies you've put into place to navigate through.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, like, I've developed so many different strategies because, as you say, you can't escape numbers. It is everywhere. I think the biggest thing for me is setting alarms on my phone. So for me, time management is really important, especially like I'm a very busy person. I own a business, and it's so tricky to ensure that, you know, I keep up with everything that I'm doing. So setting alarms on my phone, a reminder of whether I need to pay someone, whether it's to even to remind me to, I don't know, lots of different kind of things. For this meeting, for example, I had 2 alarms this morning. Obviously, I had some to wake me up, but I had 2 more before that to kind of, you know, prep myself. So I knew that I had an hour. Okay, I've got an hour to get ready. I've got half an hour to get ready, and give myself an extra kind of 10 minutes that I kind of have that time management in place. It's, you know, it kind of calms down that stress, because actually, you know, having a learning difference, it can be quite stress inducing, and it's really important that we find ways to manage our well-being and, you know, enhance our kind of quality of life, because I think people forget the kind of extra layers that come with, you know, neurodiversity and how those differences come into play within the workplace. But I think also for me, if I'm out and about, and, you know, because I'm quite an independent person, but actually when you kind of find yourself in a shop and you go, oh my goodness, I can't work out this discount, or you kind of get to the queue and you're like, I have no idea what this is going to be, and then you're surprised at the end. I think like that is something that I do struggle with. So for me to kind of overcome that is I actually use ChatGPT, and I know AI and everything has kind of lots of different kind of varying experiences and opinions, but actually if you learn how to use it effectively, especially if you're neurodiverse, it actually can be your best friend. And actually for me, it's almost been like life-changing, because I can plan in advance, I can ask ChatGPT to do my math equations and all sorts of things. So for me, it's been, you know, really, really helpful. I think also it's looking at your support system. Who can I rely on? Who can I call if I'm in the shop? You know, ChatGPT isn't working, or I don't have any Wi-Fi, or actually I just need a really quick instant access, or I just need to speak to a familiar voice if I'm overwhelmed. You know, looking at who can you call, who can I reach out to, whether it is someone that you have an agreement beforehand. Like if I'm going for like a big shop and I want to, you know, do a bit of an investment into something, or it's my birthday or whatever it is, I always have somebody that I can call, that if I do get stressed and I need someone just to check my sums or check that I've not been scammed, if like, you know, there's discounts and they've not added them, that kind of thing, because I think it's really important to ensure that you have that safe space to come to, and that you can kind of do little steps that make you feel a little bit more at ease and more in control and independent.
Yeah, brilliant. Has the network helped to have a safe space as well for you guys, with you reaching out to your own community, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah,
Thank you,
100%.
really insightful. I was also thinking, for you saying running your own business, you know, tax and that time of year when you're having to declare and fill out your paperwork and everything. Real challenge, I expect.
Yeah, and perhaps I'm kind of privileged in that area that I do, you know, come back to my parents for that, and I think that, you know, I'm really lucky to have that space. But you know, even like your ChatGPT and things, there are so many different strategies, and I think it's about owning it and actually, you know, putting my hands up and go, I struggle with this. And I think, you know, if you can accept it and recognize it and find strategies that work best for you, that can be really useful.
I love what you say about owning it. Mia, same question to you then, about how do you navigate through life, your own strategies?
So yeah, I mean, a lot of what Amelia said, really. I mean, something that I've started doing recently is asking for help, because I never did that when I was younger. But now I kind of realized that it's okay to ask for help, even for simple things, because, you know, you can't know everything. And especially with dyscalculia, sometimes it is just the simple things, you know, like sorting out bills and stuff. I mean, I live with my partner and we split the bills, and that was a big thing, like working out how much I owe him or he owes me, whatever. Like, so, but I definitely reached out to him and said, look, I'm really going to struggle with this, and he was there to help me. You know, if you do have anybody out there that can help you, then I would always recommend just asking for help. But I think we're also lucky to live in a day and age where we do have all these apps and AI technology and stuff like that to help us. And yes, like, we do have calculators if we need them. But yeah, like, we're really lucky to live in a day and age where there is a lot of help out there. It's just sometimes I think people are afraid to ask for that help because they feel like, oh, you know, I should know this, you know. I think it's that shame, that fear of failure, you know, like, oh, if I don't know this, then I'm not very clever, which is, especially for a dyscalculic person, that's a very common thing to say, that I don't feel very clever, which is not the case. Like, it's okay to just not know simple answers sometimes. But yeah, we're very lucky to live with all of this help that we've got out there with apps and AI and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that human touch as well, isn't it? As you both have shared about that network and the support that you've got in your lives. Kat, I'm guessing from your perspective as one of the co-founders of the network, what Mia and Amelia are sharing must be quite common voices that come through in the adult community.
Yeah, and I think that we do hear from adults like Mia and Amelia who were maybe diagnosed relatively young, as children or young people. Then we can hear that they've been able to develop strategies, they've found workarounds. I think what we hear from a lot of adults who weren't diagnosed is that they felt stupid and insecure their whole life about their difficulties with maths. And yes, they've made a few workarounds, but how many workarounds more would they have had if they'd had some support earlier? And I think for me, having dyscalculia is actually really, really difficult. I mean, Mia and Amelia are brilliant cases of people who are just amazing people and resilient and hardworking and have really made the best of having dyscalculia and really looked on the positive side. But I'm sure, that there is days, and I certainly hear it from a lot of adults, when it's actually really tough to have dyscalculia. It's really tough not to be able to work out the simple maths that we call simple maths, that for somebody with dyscalculia is really tricky. And it's really hard to know to actually open up, and to, like Mia said, it's taken her a long time to ask for help, because there is that tendency in life for people to say, oh, I was no good at maths either. And actually dyscalculia is much more than that. And I think that there isn't the understanding in the general population that how difficult it is for somebody with dyscalculia around budgeting, around time, around organisation. And those kind of things as an adult have a massive impact, not just on everyday life, but in the workplace as well. So we hear a lot of adults who are really struggling with dyscalculia and really struggling with not feeling that they can talk about it, and that it's not understood in the workplace, and that there's misunderstandings and they don't feel able to talk to it. And Mia and Amelia are incredible, because what they're doing by being on Adult Advisory Board, and what they're doing is putting themselves out there and saying, we're here and we know how that feels. And there's a lot of people, a lot of celebrities doing that for dyslexia, but there isn't people talking about dyscalculia in the same way. And you know, we're relying on people like me and Amelia to talk about it and make that difference for everybody else.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing this, guys. And, you know, this is why we wanted to have the conversation here at NeuroBox, to put a spotlight on this difference. Because, yeah, I think there's a lot of myths around it. As you say, Kat, it's somebody who just doesn't like maths or not great at it. And that can speak for a lot of us, isn't it? Certainly for certain generations of when we went to school. For some of us, we weren't taught maths maybe in a great way that we like to learn, but it doesn't mean we've got dyscalculia. And I think that's where we've got a cultural issue, maybe, and an awareness piece that we have to shed light upon. And you're right, this is about workplace and about raising awareness for those who are in work. Even if you haven't got a day job that's associated, I think, with number, it creeps in, doesn't it, experts, into everything, really, without us realising it. I'm going to ask you about the festive season coming up. That's another place where we're all very excited, but number creeps in, doesn't it, really, without us even, expecting it, with shopping and budgets and juggling events and time management to the nth degree. As we look forward to, yes, hopefully for a lot of us, a great festive season ahead, any ideas about how you guys navigate through? Can I start with you, Mia, on that? What does Christmas time, with all the wonderful things that we think about, how do you navigate through with that period with your dyscalculia?
So in the past, I mean, I'm one of those people that I like to buy presents for people, but this sometimes gets me into trouble because I end up spending way too much money, but I don't realize it at the time, because to me, I'm like, okay, that's only £10, but then you forget that it adds up, and you look at the bill and you're like, oh gosh, I've spent way too much money. So yeah, I mean, I suppose, like, I'm quite lucky in that I don't have to make Christmas dinner or anything like that. The only thing I really have to worry about is like buying gifts for people. But yeah, like I said, that can be difficult because I don't really know. I can't judge how much I'm spending on people. There's been times where I've ended up spending, like, buying a gift for somebody that was really expensive, but in my head I didn't really think about it like that, and then they've been like, hang on a minute, this is too nice, this gift is too expensive, like, I really appreciate it, but why did you spend this much money? So yeah, and I think something that I made a video on yesterday was petrol and stuff. Now obviously people will be traveling at Christmas, and a lot of people don't know how, get overwhelmed at petrol stations, which I do. I always look at petrol stations and I look at the big fuel signs, and I just don't know what those signs mean. So it's things like that, having to take into account petrol and all of that. This is such an expensive time of year as well, with
Yes.
having to put the heating on, having to buy gifts, having to do all this stuff. It's an expensive time of year. If I'm honest, I still don't really know how I manage it. I mean, I still really struggle with it every year. I spend a lot of money, or I don't have a lot of money. I mean, people with like low income, I consider myself somebody with low income. We really struggle with like money and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know really. It's hard to answer because I suppose I do still really struggle. I can't
Yeah.
like give good advice really, because I do really struggle, and like I do sympathize with a lot of people this time of year, especially people with dyscalculia, who, all this money we need to spend. Like, how do we cope? Like, do maybe there is an app, I don't know, or maybe we do use AI to help us. But yeah, I do really sympathize for a lot of people out there who really struggle with money around this time of year.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your honesty, because I think admitting that, even though we don't always have the answers, it helps just to share it so that people can say, yeah, actually, I have those experiences as well. And I think you're spot on about traveling. And, this time of year, a lot of people are thinking about going on long car journeys and so on. And I think there's lots of layers to this. You talked about, you don't necessarily, you're not the person that we'd come to cook us our Christmas lunch, maybe. But, cooking is part of the journey often around Christmas time, isn't it? Where we're planning often quite difficult meals with lots of moving parts to it that we're all trying to serve up at once. And yeah, it's actually numbers again in that kind of experience, isn't it, I guess? So as we said, it does, number creeps in everywhere, even when we're not expecting it to. So yeah, thank you for being so honest there. And I think this unpacks a little bit about what is a wonderful time of year, but can be quite challenging sometimes. Amelia, can I come to you with the same question? As you think about the festive season, what's coming to mind for your experiences around dyscalculia?
Yeah, I think I kind of echo what Mia says. Like it's such a tricky time, and I think as a dyscalculic, it as that kind of extra pressure that comes with managing money. And even you said, Donna, don't even get me started on cooking and time management. Like I would burn the house down, so I don't go near the kitchen. Because I'm just, that time management, remembering exactly, I think also, as you say, Kat, earlier, like there's so many kind of crossovers, and those things can be really challenging. It's not just about money, it's not just numbers, it's sequence, it's patterns, it's time management. So many things can be really tricky. But I think, for me, I even last night I just finished my Christmas shopping, and I had like a gift voucher, and I was like, right, I've got this amount of money here. I had a uni days discount. I was like, right, I'm gonna save so much money, and I was like so excited. And then I looked at it and I was like, I just don't understand. I just do not understand how I got here. I was like, I'm not gonna ask anyone. I'm gonna figure this one out myself. And I just sat there for 40 minutes just staring at it, going, I'm getting really frustrated at myself. I'm like, why can't I understand this? And I think, as Mia said, it's really important that we talk about those challenges, because, the more we talk about it, the more we break down that stigma, the more we realize actually that you're not on your own. There are so many people that struggle with money, so many people that struggle with dyscalculia. And it's just letting yourself be aware actually that you're not going through this on your own. There are people that are there for you, like the Dyscalculia Network. We have so many chats on the group chat, and I think even last night we were discussing all different sorts of things, and all those different challenges, and you aren't on your own. And I think the biggest thing for me around Christmas is that budgeting again. And looking, how much money do I want to spend before I start going mad? And as Mia said, I've done that before, where I've gone, just got excited and like, yeah, they'll love this, I'll love that, and then you don't quite have that added awareness around money as a neurotypical person. So then to kind of recognize that, and then for me it's like, right, I'm going to spend £200, for example, on everyone this year, and I've got to kind of distribute that against everybody. And whether that is asking a friend or a partner, or whoever is in your kind of support system, and maybe even buddying up with someone. Like I often ask to go with a friend or my brother or my mum, and I say, right, someone please keep track, because I will overspend. And I love shopping anyway. I'm a bit of a shopaholic, so I've got to be careful with my money too. So I think it's just been about transparent with people and transparent with yourself, and going, right, what can I do within my control right now? And that is giving myself a limit, and buddying up with somebody, or saying to myself, I'm not on my own with this. There are lots of people that are just like you. I think it's just really important to be transparent.
And I think it's also, I was just going to say, around money, the difficulty is often with decimals in money.
Yes.
So we're often dealing with not round numbers, and dyscalculics don't naturally round things up and down in decimals. That's not something that's going to happen easily, unless they've been very fortunate, had a lot of support and help in their younger years. So things like not misunderstanding where the decimal point is in numbers, and that comes with the petrol. I mean, why is petrol still in pence? I looked at Mia's video last night and I was like, actually, why on earth does it say it's 145.9 pence? I mean, why? We don't, that is just ridiculous. Why doesn't it just say £1.45 or £1.46? It would be so much easier, wouldn't it? Yeah. And I think we come across, there's lots of different situations, all times, when dyscalculics are going to come across numbers. And I noticed when I was ordering something the other day that it had a ridiculously long code order number. So if I wanted to chase the order, I had to put in this ridiculously long coded number with letters and numbers. And I straight away thought, okay, I can do this. I don't have dyscalculia. But for somebody with dyscalculia, like writing down order numbers, reference numbers for things that you buy to make sure, like you say, there's all kinds of things that come along with that as well.
Yeah, it's like even I was doing the I was just saying, even if I was going to say that even with the gift card yesterday when I was adding it in, it was like a 16 digit, and I literally spent so long, and I was getting so frustrated because I kept looking and I was like typing it in. And I think that's also really important because, like, phone numbers, for example, someone asks my number, I'm like, oh, I can't do that. So I think it's just really important to be aware that numbers are everywhere, whether you're giving like your employee a number or you're working with them. I think it's about finding different ways that work best for them, especially, you know, if you're a manager, for example, distributing tasks, looking at ways in which we can make numbers more accessible, whether it's, you know, color coding the first section, then the middle, then the end. Or for me, I put it in like 2 numbers. So instead of like, I don't know, I can't give you an example because the numbers are going all around in my head, but let's say like number 22. If it's a long, I hope you get what I mean, Kat, but maybe Kat can explain it better. But I put it into like 2 numbers, and then that helps me kind of transition it all the way through. I hope that makes sense.
Like you build it, Amelia, like you segment it, like breaking it down. And these are similar patterns when folks are talking about dyslexia, about how they might look at a word. It's similar, maybe strategies, but when you're looking at a number. And Kat, I was thinking about what you were saying about the codes and so on, and you too, Amelia. And sometimes people think, oh, I'll do some online shopping, it's easier. But then if you ring up and people are like, what's the membership number? And immediately you ask for all these numbers, aren't you? Lots and lots of digits. So it's everywhere. But obviously it's not just at Christmas time, it's all through life, isn't it? For all the different things that we navigate through, including, of course, the world of work. Amelia and Mia, you've been so open and so confident to speak, and I know it's going to make such a difference, and what you do makes a difference. So thank you. How much difference does it make for you guys to be able to say to folks, if you're ever in situations, please excuse me for a moment, I've got dyscalculia, so I just need to take a moment just to have a look at that again. Are you guys open when you're out and about in your lives to say, I've got dyscalculia, please give me a moment to do whatever it might be? Amelia, I can see you nodding. Are you confident to share when you're, you know, in your life that, hey, I've got dyscalculia, please, and then whatever you're going to ask for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite an open person, but I think, you know, I always say, guys, I need a little bit of extra time. But what I notice, and that seems to be a continuous pattern within the workplace, but also just in general, is that is sometimes a lack of empathy. People don't always are aware. They're like, oh, just get on with it. Or really, I'm sure you'll be all right. And I think actually it's just about, you know, accepting, you know, we're me and Mia in the right place. The world is far more accessible than, you know, ever is, and it's you know, still got a long way to go, but there is still a lack of empathy around those conversations. So yes, I do feel comfortable talking about it, but I'll be honest, sometimes there is anxiety when I go and say I need more space, especially in the workplace. I feel like there's more stigma around that. I think, you know, as a young woman too, you know, it's about kind of looking at the stereotypes there, and actually saying, actually, you know, I'm a successful businesswoman, but I also cannot do my numbers, or I actually do need a little bit more time than you do. So yes and no. And I think it, you know, this is why Neurobox is so important, and the Dyscalculia Network, because it does, you know, really make a difference to lots of people's lives.
Yeah, thank you for your honesty. It's positive, but not so great as well, all at the same time, isn't it? Mia, is that your lived experience as well? In terms of maybe, you know, if you do share, people don't get it, or they're quite resistant to you in some way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have tried to, over the past year, since being with meeting the Dyscalculia Network, and I've got a show all about a musical comedy show all about dyscalculia. So I'm trying to be a lot more open about it because I realise it's really important. But I'm still like Amelia. I'm still like, oh, I don't know if I want to mention this because I don't want to explain what it is, because there's that fear of, will they believe me? Because I've had it in the past where I have explained to an employer I have dyscalculia, and then they ask me what it is, and I explain what it is, and I'm always met with this sort of response that's like, well, that's not real. You know, it's not what they say, it's more how they imply their reaction. I mean, I've had it in the past where when I was working at a chip shop, I had to fill in my hours and I got it completely wrong. And the manager was really horrible about it. It was really mean. And that made me feel like I couldn't ever tell anyone, because you know, I didn't ever say like I have dyscalculia, because I was like, well, they're not going to believe me, and I've already, you know, the damage is already done. So there's that shame always attached to it, unfortunately. But I do realize now that, what, you know, growing up, I do realize that it's really important to be honest and tell people I have dyscalculia and these are the things that I need to help me. And obviously that might not always be met with a response of, okay, let's see how we can help you. But I do think if you do get a response that's where they don't want to help you, so I think sometimes you need to take that further if you feel confident enough to do that. I think something my mum always did with school is she kind of did fight for me a lot in school, but she would bring in research and say, if okay, clearly there's a lack of understanding here, would like this is what dyscalculia is. If you want to know more, obviously it is up to the person if they do or they don't. But I think just being honest and saying I have this condition is so powerful and so important, and I think everybody should be as open and honest about it. Even if it's not met with the right response, at least you're being honest with yourself and everyone else. So yeah.
Thank you, Mia. Really wise words there. Cat, it sounds like we've still got a huge journey across our culture around this difference. Can people reach out to you if what Amelia and Mia shared really resonates with them, but feeling very unsure and isolated?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reason that we set up the network in the first place, is because there wasn't a national organisation, which is shocking. 5 years ago when we started the network, there was not a national organisation working around dyscalculia, which, considering all the organisations for dyslexia, for neurodiversity in general, for ADHD, that is shocking. So yes, people can. On our website, we have sections for parents. If you happen to be a parent listening today, you've got a child you're concerned, we have a section for adults with some information and some great advice from our adults. We have a section for educators where they can find out lots of information on how they can support learners in school with dyscalculia. And we're also just very nearly completing a workplace section for people with workplace. And we're also going to be having a whole new section, which is a bit of a secret at the moment, which will be coming out in the new year for Dyscalculia Day. So yeah, people can reach out to us through our website, through social media. We're on all the main social media platforms, including Blue Sky, which I joined yesterday. So if you're on Blue Sky, come over and say hello. Dyscalculia isn't even a subject on Blue Sky, so I'm changing that right to it.
Yeah. A real pioneer work that you guys are doing, actually. And I love everything that you're trying to do. We said at the beginning, didn't we, everyone, between 20 or 30 years behind where some of the other learning differences are. And yet, dyscalculia is connected to a subject that's huge, that's part of all our lives, whether we like number or not. Kat, a lot of the myths and misunderstandings around dyscalculia, I think certainly for us adults, and Mia was talking about going to, managers and sharing of yourself. Do we need an assessment, or talk me through the assessment journey for dyscalculia? Because we are so not there yet with this difference, I think people like me aren't sure about what do we do if we think we may have this difference.
Yeah, so if we're talking about an adult usually will probably know themselves if they've got a lot of these traits. And it is worth saying that these finding maths difficult could be related to something else. It could be to do with maths anxiety, which comes along with dyscalculia, but is also, anyone can feel anxious about maths. So it could be maths anxiety, could be some time off school, some missing time, could be the dyslexia impacting. So there's lots of different reasons. But if you feel like you'd like to know more about yourself and have an assessment, you need to see a level 7 dyscalculia assessor. There's a list on our website. They've even got friendly smiley photos, so you can pick one you like the look of, and a little description about them. And they have to hold what's called an APC, which is an assessment practicing certificate, which means that the report that they complete is suitable for things like DSA and university support and things like that, if you happen to be of that age. But sometimes adults don't want to have an assessment. They maybe would just like to do a checklist. Again, there's one on our website, and they might just like to join our community and some people feel, I think, that assessment isn't necessary. They know themselves that they struggle, and that's enough. And they say, oh yeah, I think I might be dyscalculic, but that's enough for them. But for other people, the diagnosis is really important. They feel like they need that diagnosis. I think what's important to know is for access to work, And there's a whole nother conversation I'm sure Donna's had a lot of, but for access to work, you don't actually need the diagnosis. So I think that's really important to know if you're listening. Also, what's important to know if you're listening from a workplace point of view is you can hear from Amelia and Mia that they need more support. So if you're in a position to give that support to your employees and find out, if they need it, then please do so and reach out to us if you need help or guidance or training around dyscalculia in the workplace. And also check out Laura Parker. She has a great website called Accessible Numbers, which she's also a member of our adult advisory board, and her work is around making numbers more accessible in public domain, things like in banks, in government websites. And she had designed, and we assisted with that, a poster last year, which is actually the most downloaded item on the government website, which is a content design poster around dyscalculia. And that's something workplaces could easily look at and take on board, that there's some things they could do to make it easier for people with dyscalculia in the workplace around the content design of their website, of leaflets they're sending out, or whatever.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Kat. And as I say, thank you for all the work you do. We will share those links, so please don't worry about that, anybody listening who isn't sure where to go. When is Dyscalculia Day? You talked about that special time. Putting you on the spot here now.
No, it's the 3rd of March,
3rd of March.
Dyscalculia Day. We actually have a full day of educator conferences. That's actually already on our Eventbrite page, which is on Friday, the 28th of February. And then Dyscalculia Day itself is Monday, the 3rd of March, and we have a parent conference all day. And then we have an evening conference for adults. Well, I say conference, a couple of webinars, and then a get-together, because I think the most important thing we do for adults is to have that get-together. So if you're an adult with dyscalculia, do join that. It's not on our Eventbrite yet. It will be straight after Christmas. And I'm happy to announce, it'll be the first time anyone hears this, that Amelia is actually a mental health expert, and she's very much underplayed. She's actually got a master's in mental health. And she's going to be talking about mental health and dyscalculia, which I feel is the crux of everything we're talking about, is about dyscalculia being underrepresented and the impact that has on mental health of people with dyscalculia. So I feel that's a really important topic.
Yeah, brilliant. You guys are truly leading the way on this, so thank you. The conversation is really drawing to a close. It's gone so quick. But it's really insightful, I hope, for those listening. May I come to each of you with some closing thoughts, whatever that might be? We're coming to the end now of 2024. We kind of naturally think into next year and times in the future. But Mia, can I come to you first? Closing thoughts for those who are listening to this conversation.
I mean, something I've learned these past 2 years is to just be honest about what you struggle with. I spent so many years not talking about dyscalculia, pretending it wasn't there and completely masking it. But as soon as I started talking about it, these opportunities just came to me, and I think that's why it's just so important to be honest and accept yourself for who you are, even though sometimes there are things in ourselves that we don't want to accept because of different things like feeling ashamed of it. But I think it's important to not feel ashamed of that. And also I would say, like, if you're a teacher or an educator or anyone like that, I think everyone's brain works differently, and I think sometimes you just have to cater your teaching to different minds. And I think that's really important, as an educator. I know that could be hard, and being a teacher is difficult. There's a lot to do. But I think that, everybody learns differently. And I think everyone, just if you make sure to, do your research, but like just be kind to people and just accept, not everyone can do maths or English or any other subjects, and there are some things that people will struggle with more. But just be honest and be open about what you have, and it's a good thing. It's never a bad thing.
Yeah, love that. Thank you, Mia. Really insightful and so positive. Amelia, same question to you. Words of wisdom, thinking about what you hope 2025 is going to bring. Lots of awareness about dyscalculia, no doubt.
Yeah, hopefully. I think, echoing what Mia said, it's so important to just remember you're not alone. You know, there are so many people out there that are struggling with the same thing. And as Mia said, you know, it is looking at it and thinking, actually, yeah, there are some real challenges and there have been some really tricky times, but actually it also gives you that kind of different perspective, and it's not a bad thing. And I think also, if you do have a child that's just been diagnosed with dyscalculia, it's important to know that, you know, it's okay, and that your child will be okay in the end. I think for me, you know, it's been, as I said, it's been a whole journey through education. I never thought I'd go to uni because I struggled so much at uni, and now I've done a master's, I've got my degree, I've got 2 degrees, and actually, you know, it's about just going with it and doing, you know, going in your own time at your own pace, because it will all work out in the end. It's just about kind of, as I said, going with it, going with your own pace, not looking at anybody else's watch or time or whatever they're doing. Focus on you, what feels right for you at that time, and everything will work out in the end.
Yeah, brilliant. Love it.
Well
Kat,
said.
final closing words to you then.
Yeah, just that we really appreciate support for the Dyscalculia Network, because like I say, we're the underdogs really in the world of neurodiversity. So give us a follow, contact us. We're always there to help if we can. We offer training, we offer advice. Everything on our website, downloads and everything is nearly all free. And we're here to make a difference. So if we can and you need anything, just reach out. And our Adult Advisory Board are absolutely incredible. And I'd just like to personally thank you, Donna, for bringing awareness to Neurobox about dyscalculia, and we hope we'll work together with you in the future. But also a massive thank you to Mia and Amelia for putting themselves out there, because it isn't always easy to do that. And hearing from people with the lived experience of dyscalculia is the way forward. And that's what we need to push forward. We need to push forward people talking about it. And if anyone knows, has got any contact details of anyone who's got dyscalculia, who's got some celebrity awareness, then, you know, send them over to us. We need to get, you know, there's all these amazing celebrities talking about dyscalculia. Where are dyslexia? Where are they talking about dyscalculia? Let's find them and bring them out.
Yeah, I know. I guess, do we all feel optimistic, experts, for 2025? Because it sounds like you already got big plans for next year. I can see Mia nodding. Yeah, lots of nods. That's what we like to hear. Well, thank you guys for all what you're doing and continue to do to support your community. And thank you to all those who are listening. For those of you who this conversation really resonates with, because you think, yeah, that is me and this is my community, please reach out to them. They are here with big plans for next year, because we've got to smash through these barriers of ignorance and lack of education around this key learning difference. Beyond that, that just leaves me to say a huge thank you to all our listeners for these LinkedIn Lives. My goodness, we've had some great guests this year. It's been wonderful to have your company, and I hope that we will have your company now into 2025. Until then, though, we wish you all a wonderful festive season, a safe, happy time with the people that you love, and we will see you back again in 2025. Take care, everyone, from us here at Neurobox.